Welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. I'm Hilary, and with me I've got...
Eric!
Okay, is that a bit now at this point, the long pause?
No, I think I was looking at my notes and I forgot. Sorry.
Okay. Well, today we're talking about the animated series of X-Men, and the episodes are Juggernaut Returns and Deal with the Devil.
Yeah, you don't want to deal with him.
You don't want to deal with the devil. I don't even know that that's a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess because he will give you the stuff you want, whereas the other side will give you stuff you need.
But you can't always get what you want.
Yeah, that's true.
So the first episode we've got is Juggernaut Returns.
He sure does.
He does return. He returns with a vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this one aired May 6, 1995. It was written by Julianne Clem, directed by Larry Houston.
Yep.
We've got Rick Bennett back as Juggernaut, and we had a nice long previously on for this episode.
Yeah, though it also kind of points out how, like, he's really only showed up twice.
Yeah, he was there,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's back.
He's back.
He has returned.
Yes.
But we saw at the end of the previously on, I guess I didn't remember this happening. Gladiator somehow came and threw him into the ocean.
Yeah, during the Phoenix Saga, Juggernaut and Black Tom had kidnapped Lilandra.
That's right.
And Juggernaut tried to pick a fight with Gladiator, and Gladiator just tossed him, and Jubilee was like, OMG! And that's where Juggernaut's been this whole time, just walking the ocean floor from Muir Island to New York.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty cool thing to like end an episode walking along the ocean, and then however many seasons later.
Look, I don't want to correct him because he's big and he'll kill me. But if I was Juggernaut, I would have actually just gone back to Scotland and then taken a plane to New York.
He didn't know. He didn't have a compass down there. Maybe he was aiming for Scotland.
Yeah, he was. That's true. He's like, oh, well, this is fine too.
I guess I'll just climb up on this. He climbs up on a bridge, which this is a funny thing to do to begin with. He finally gets to land. And he climbs up to the center of a bridge rather than like walking up the side of like the land. But he climbs onto a bridge and just immediately throws a car.
Yeah, it's in his way.
It's in his way.
While that's happening, Eugene, our new fun character.
Oh, Eugene.
He's a archaeologist, I guess. I don't know, historian. He said something. He's looking for the tablet of cataract, the jewel ruby of cataract. Yeah. And
cataract is what happens in your eyes.
Well, Sidorak. Sorry. That's right. Sidorak. Which is the first time I think we've heard the term Sidorak in the show. Like the first time we met Juggernaut, he was like, my powers are magical. I'm not a mutant. But
we didn't get like the whole background.
Sidorak lore is mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. He dug up a tablet.
Yep.
But he didn't find the ruby.
Right. He has to go looking for it. Meanwhile, Juggernaut is beating his way to the mansion. He steals a cab and drives it like a toy car because he's too big. Oh, there's a woman driving her kids in a car that looks just like Jean.
Oh, that's funny.
And yeah, the X-Men all get called from their different places. Storm and Rogue were shopping.
At the mall, as one does.
And Cyclops and Wolverine were on a mission, so they're all coming to the mansion to stop Juggernaut as he just tears through their defenses, which I'm pretty sure is an homage to the Juggernaut's first appearance in the comics back when Stan Lee was writing, but I could be wrong. Yeah, he just tears through it. He tears through the danger room, and Professor X is just like, come down, you don't have to do this. Why do you hate me?
Which is a good question.
He ends up fighting some robot Juggernauts. He ends up fighting robot Hulk, which is cool.
Yeah, and I feel like this has to be like there are actual robots and Xavier is making them look like these other characters, right?
Yeah, they're holographic.
They're holographic, not his brain.
Right.
Okay.
And it was funny when Wolverine and Cyclops leave, they were at Muir Island in the Blackbird, and Morph is there in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I saw someone was in a wheelchair, and I had to go back and see who it actually was.
It took me a second to realize, like, oh right, because of the whole Sinister stuff.
The whole Sinister stuff.
Yep.
And if you have to convalesce somewhere, apparently it's going to be Muir Island.
That's true. So Juggernaut is really smashing up the danger room now. He's really mad, and Eugene has found the Ruby of Sidorak or whatever it's called, and he does a little incantation, and he becomes the living Juggernaut, and Juggernaut loses all his powers.
No. And he's like destroyed the whole danger room, and everything, like all the rubble is falling and stuff. And since he loses his powers, it all lands right on his like normal human body.
Yep. This mortal is what we're dealing with here.
Yes.
And they have to rescue him.
Yeah, and Xavier's got some kind of pulling rank craziness happening.
He sure does. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You will save him. So he makes Rogue go and like dig out the stuff. Storm, when she arrives, is all decked out in a fun little outfit.
In a new green outfit, I know, and we never see it again.
I know. I was hoping that it would be a thing. I wondered if there would be some explanation for why she was randomly in this.
At the ball.
There was nothing, but I liked it. I liked the look.
So they find Kane, not as the Juggernaut, but as himself, still in his Korean War outfit.
Has he just been Juggernaut 100% of the time since then?
Yeah. I don't think
that's
he has
wild.
to use the bathroom as Juggernaut.
Well, that's reason enough.
Yeah. But yeah, he's unconscious, and Beast says that his vitals are declining and he's going to die soon.
Yes, because he doesn't have any healing powers like he would if he were Juggernaut. And so now we have this, dilemma. Like, do we help our enemy become our enemy again?
Yep.
Or do we let him die right here in our hospital bed when we could help him?
Yeah. And Professor X just goes straight to we need to help him, and he calls the Blackbird, and the first line we hear is Cyclops, of all people, being like, he wants us to do what?
Yeah. Everybody's reaction, Rogue too, is very harsh about it. Like, are you kidding me? We should let him die.
It's fun hearing it from Cyclops, because you feel like it should be coming from Wolverine, and Cyclops could be like, the professor's orders. But no, Cyclops is the first one to be like, give me one good reason why.
Yeah. At least he's talking to Beast, right? He's not talking to Xavier. I bet if it was Xavier, he'd be like, of course, sir. Certainly.
He tells Wolverine, he's like, we're going to save the Juggernaut's sorry life, and don't tell me you don't like it. And Wolverine still says, I don't like it.
I don't like it. He has a nice close-up for that one.
Yeah. Cut to Eugene now.
Yeah, Eugene is just like, it's just a comedy of like him, tearing doors off of things, and like he's just in his apartment.
What would happen if a dork got the powers of the Juggernaut?
We're seeing it. We are seeing it.
Hear all these like funny little quips, like this helmet's bigger than my last apartment.
Classic.
Why did that girl run away? Maybe she talked to my mother.
Oh, Eugene.
Yep, Eugene. So they decide that maybe they can help Juggernaut if Professor X can go through his memories and find some information. But Professor X doesn't go for any of the Sidorak memories. He only goes for his childhood memories.
Yeah, I wonder. It's like he intended to do that, but then he was just like, I'm just going to take a peek over here.
And look, young Charles is a dork.
Oh my word, such a dork. The first thing that you see is him riding up on a horse and being like, oh boy, I'm glad I have a brother now.
Yeah, it's the voice actor, it's the lines. It's hard to... I know I'm supposed to feel bad because he's this young kid being bullied and stuff, but it's also like, could we have... I don't know.
You want to bully young Xavier.
I don't want to bully him, but I do want to be like, hey man, say something cool here. But it is sad because he's getting bullied a lot by young Kane, his new stepbrother, who makes sure Professor X knows, you're not my brother, you're my stepbrother.
I'm going to step on you, he says.
Yes, we learn throughout all these many dives into Kane's memory that Professor X's stepfather, Juggernaut's real dad, only married Professor X's mom for money.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Poor Xavier. He's so sad about how Kane hates him, and then he finds out about his stepfather, and he's like, he never even loved my mother. He's so sad.
When he finds out, the professor is really surprised, and it's a bummer.
It makes me wonder, like, how long into his childhood did his mother die? And like, does he still have a relationship with his stepfather? Like,
Well,
what's the situation here?
I mean, he's got the house, so it must have gone to him,
Oh, snap.
I would assume.
So he didn't even get it. He didn't even
Yeah.
get the money.
That's what I'm guessing. And then probably the stepdad leeched off Xavier for a while.
Yeah, Xavier's like, I'm gonna cancel some checks.
Yeah. Because the dad has this plan, he needs to get rid of young Kane because he's causing a problem for him and Charles. So he sends Kane to boarding school. And so he's stuck there thinking that the professor was liked more than him. I don't think the dad liked anybody.
I think the dad was just kind of a jerk.
Yeah. Professor X really just wants his brother to be his friend. They're brothers.
Why can't we just get along?
So we're dealing with all that sad stuff while we cut back to Eugene at a club and trying to impress everybody how big he is. And
He's
like,
so big. He's not in the uniform. He's in like the Saturday Night Fever,
yep.
like disco vibe situation.
And look, the thing about Eugene, I think, is that it's a very Stan Lee type of concept. Like if you were reading a Stan Lee Spider-Man issue and Rhino showed up in a disco outfit and was doing this thing, it would just feel right being written by Stan Lee. I mean, Stan's the guy that, had Doc Ock attempting to marry Aunt May, and he didn't know that Spider-Man was Peter Parker. And, that kind of stuff just seems like, yeah. And then this kind of dweeb gets Juggernaut's up and he goes dancing.
I like how it starts out with like the women being like, come on, man, we're not into you or whatever. But then eventually, like, they're all sort of like cheering him on and like, woo, dancing around with him.
I like when the first girl like runs away because Eugene threw the guy and he's like, oh, why did she leave? Did she talk to my mother? And Wolverine's like, do you need dating advice? And Cyclops just says, women like men who are themselves.
I know, it's like he thinks he's gonna just relate to the guy, like we can just, I like how he's like, we can help you just, get back to yourself. Like we'll just steal the ruby from you.
Yeah. And then he also like smashes into Power Rangers.
Yeah, that was so funny.
Filming.
They're like dinosaurs, and
that was the guy that was in charge of the X-Men cartoon was in charge of Power Rangers. But they even do like a little riff. They don't do the whole thing, but they do a little riff of the Power Rangers theme music.
I thought it was funny how extended it was too, because like you see him crash through the roof,
and
all of the characters are like, "What the heck?" And then he like bursts through the wall, and they just like chase after him.
So we learned that Kane, when he found out that Professor X was a mutant, he made sure everybody he could hated Professor X as well, and which is sad. And then he's like, even Sandra, and we see this girl like run away. And I'm like, who the heck is Sandra?
Even Sandra. And then like you cut to Xavier and he's like putting his head down and he's so sad. Not Sandra.
Like, as we, the audience, should we be like, no, not Sandra?
Even Sandra? How could you?
So strange.
It was a very specific moment. It was funny, not funny. It was sad because at this point, Xavier is like pulling away and Beast keeps kind of checking in with him and like, what's going on? We okay? He's being a really good friend. And Xavier's just like, I thought that I was over all of this. And now I just like I was young and it's so sad. And he did. Kane was just like calling him a mutie, just like over and over. And like everybody was being mean. Yeah. Poor little dweeby young Xavier.
Yeah, it is sad. And that stuff does happen. You think you're over it, and then you're 36, and you're like, it's back.
Yep.
With no prompt. You'll just be like driving in your car, and you'll see a stop sign, and you're like, hey, remember that time?
I haven't processed that. I don't have the right ability to do that.
They bring the ruby to him, and in his mind, he says the Juggernaut chant, and he becomes the Juggernaut. And Eugene is left just being himself, but then a girl hugs him because he saved her anyway.
Yeah, he like saved her from the damage that he had caused. Yeah. But he looks different, so she must not make the connection. You sort of expect that like he loses everything and you expect the next thing to be everybody like, oh, you idiot, you ruined everything. But you just get this nice lady who's very happy to see him.
But Juggernaut comes back as in full self, and he gets up, and Wolverine's like, you ready to fight? And Juggernaut's like, another time when I'm in the mood. And then he walks away. Professor X says that is his way of saying thank you.
I'm
not continuing the fight.
Not continuing the fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how completely zoned in Juggernaut is. Like every second, he's like, I'm going to attack Xavier.
Yeah.
Just anything that I'm doing, I am on my way to attack Xavier. This is like his prime thing.
Yeah. That's kind of an issue with Juggernaut with like long-term storytelling. Like eventually you're like, you're not doing it. So
I know. Maybe like find a career.
Yeah.
Some hobbies.
But the show uses him kind of sparingly. So, but you know what? I like this episode. I feel like this is a better episode than that first one with Colossus in terms of showing Juggernaut's power and just that like beginning where you see him like just tearing through the mansion's defenses and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And like he would have done it if this random guy hadn't taken the ruby.
Yeah. In terms of whether or not I like this episode, I used to really like it, and now it's a bit goofy, but I do like the showcase of Juggernaut's powers, and I like the earnestness of Professor X having to deal with that stuff.
Yeah, I liked it too. I mean, it feels a lot like the kind of filler episodes that we have sometimes, but it is better somehow. I don't really know what really differentiates it, but it feels more like it has a good level of fun to it, and you get to see lots of the X-Men. At the beginning, they said something about them not having being short-staffed, basically. Yeah. And so I was worried that it was just going to be like
Gambit is helping a school bus that broke down.
Yeah, and Jubilee is swimming.
Yeah.
So I was worried that we wouldn't get to see a bunch of them, but we get a good chunk of the crew. And
the problem with that first Juggernaut episode with Colossus is that there is no emotional throughway because Professor X isn't there.
Oh, yeah.
We don't see him destroy the mansion. So there's just all this, like, we're being told, not shown stuff about the Juggernaut. In this one, we finally get to see the relationship between him and his brother, and we get to see how he tore apart the mansion and all that. So
yeah. It's cool, too, at the end of it, because you really get really down to Xavier and Kane face to face, and Kane is just like, I will never not hate you. Yeah. It's just very clear that's what it is, and Xavier still decides to help him, which is a nice little thing to see.
Brothers, am I right?
Brothers. I only have sisters, so what do I know?
Sisters, yeah, you don't know.
I know nothing.
Yeah. Has any of your sisters ever been like, I will never not hate you?
Yes, both of them, but at different times. Different, different reasons. So, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was that episode. Deal with the Devil. I don't have the date, but I know it aired way later than it was supposed to.
I've got September 14, 1996. So, yeah, that's more than a year after Juggernaut returns.
Which is why when you watch it on Disney Plus, it has that like newer intro theme, and then it has a flashback and credit scene to an episode we haven't watched yet because it aired after that.
Yeah. I wondered if I was just forgetting things.
No, it's just because that's how
I was like, it's fine. Eric will remember.
That was a Magneto 2-parter with Asteroid M that we haven't watched yet because it hasn't, story-wise, it hasn't happened yet. But this one was one of the episodes that just was delayed for purposes for a long time.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay.
The Disney Plus episode order has been organized correctly now for the story stuff. So here we have Deal with the Devil. And who's back but everybody's favorite Omega Red.
Omega Red. I knew nothing about Omega Red. I think that I somehow missed these episodes that he was in. Like, I don't think I don't know. I didn't see them.
Yeah.
And so now, like, having him come back, I'm like, oh, really? Okay, let's do this again.
That's funny. Juggernaut was first introduced in a Colossus episode, and Omega Red was first introduced in a Colossus episode.
So is Colossus the problem?
Yeah, it's the problem.
He's bringing all of the bad guys.
Omega Red is discovered by some American soldiers frozen in ice.
Yeah, frozen because this is the ice that Storm froze him into, right?
Why he's not where they froze him, which was in the middle of the city, and instead they must have just dropped him off in the mountains, I guess.
Did they just like carry the ice
Yeah.
to the mountains and just drop it out of the Blackbird?
The guy, the like colonel who's in charge and calling all the shots sounds like either he's Martin Sheen who's just cashing a check, or he sounds like a guy doing a Martin Sheen impression.
Yeah. I'm gonna guess it was the second one.
Well, Martin Sheen did voices on Captain Planet, but I don't know. Wasn't he Loot and Plunder?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Well, this isn't a Captain Planet rewatch podcast. It's next.
Yeah, get it together.
So, do you have the who wrote it and stuff?
Yeah, Eric Lewald wrote it.
One. That's right.
And Larry Houston again was the director. Len Donchev was the voice of Omega Red. I don't have who the voice of the Colonel was.
Yeah, that's too bad. We'll just assume it is Martin Sheen, just being like, you know what? I like the X-Men.
Just say it with a lot of authority and it'll work.
So we find out they dug up Omega Red because there is a Russian sub off the coast of Hawaii, like off the coast of Pearl Harbor, that has nuclear missiles still attached. And so they need Omega Red to go to the sub and send the sub to the surface so that they can take care of all that stuff. And Omega
it's like
Red
down on the bottom, like petering on the edge of a cliff thing.
Yeah. And Omega Red is chosen because he would know the codes and everything, and he can survive any radiation that's being let out at the moment.
Yes, which is apparently a lot.
Yeah. And they promise they'll make him human. And he's like, it can't be done.
Human again.
Technology has advanced since you have awoken and all this stuff. And Omega Red agrees to their terms, except he also wants Wolverine and Storm to go with him.
Why?
Because Wolverine and him go way back, and Storm's the one that froze him.
Storm's the one that froze him. Got it. Okay.
If I was him, I would have asked for Colossus, because he's also the one that beat him up.
Well, they didn't pay for that voice actor, so.
They agree because the nuclear missiles are dangerous, and Professor X says he'll go in Wolverine's stead if Wolverine doesn't want to, because he's mad. Wolverine's like, what? Who are they dealing with? Winnie the Pooh? No way.
Yeah, but Xavier, it sounds pretty disingenuous when he says that. Yeah. He's like, I mean, should I go, Wolverine? Yeah. Maybe I should go on this dangerous mission if you don't want to.
I'm sorry. I'll go. That's fine. Storm's issue here is that she's claustrophobic, and she's getting in a mini sub to go into a big sub, and she's under 3 miles of water.
Yeah, for all of that, she does really well. Like, they have this one moment where she sort of has like vertigo or something for like a second getting into that tiny sub, and then she's just like, okay, I can do it, and she does it.
Wolverine just blows the whole mission, really. He's just like, I mean, the mission gets blown because of Omega Red, but like Wolverine does not make it easy, and Storm just has to pick up the slack for the whole episode.
Yeah, because he's just being a hothead the whole time. Like every 5 seconds, he's like, all right, let's fight. Let's fight. And she's like, stop it.
There's an issue here where like he hates Omega Red and he's mad at him, but we don't really see why he should have such a personal vendetta. This isn't like
that's true.
Where Wolverine says like he iced some buddies of mine just for fun. We know that he went up against Omega Red, long ago, but like we don't see the cost and why Wolverine would be so hot-headed with him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And Omega Red is kind of being courteous the whole time. Yeah. So like, I guess what's bugging him is that Wolverine just doesn't trust him, but it's not like Omega Red is prodding him or anything really to get him to react. So he's just
maybe it's that the best revenge is living well, and Omega Red seems to be doing that.
Yes, that's probably it. Oh, Omega Red.
Yeah, they land on the sub because Storm's piloting the little boat, and they're like, careful, you don't want to knock the sub on. And she lands, and it's just this huge crash. And Storm is just like, I am sorry.
That could have been better.
So Omega Red, powers up the sub, and he gets it moving, he gets it floating, and Martin Sheen is like, all right, bring it home. And Omega is like, ha, 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 you foolish American.
How could you have believed that I would do such a thing?
So he's going to use the missiles. He's got 14 warheads, nuclear warheads. He's going to send them at the 15 largest cities in the world. And from the rubble, he'll come back and rule, or like, I don't know if ruling is the thing, but,
I know, he just says, and then the rest will fear me.
Yeah.
So it's like, what exactly is the point of any of this? But I guess just being bad.
So they're like, what about had a deal? We were going to turn you human. And Omega is like, I'm a living weapon. Why do you think I'd want to be human again?
Yeah, which is fair.
And then they say Code Red, and it's like more like Code Omega Red. That's it. All right. So the issue is if Storm and Wolverine are wearing these radiation suits to be in this sub, and Storm points out Wolverine's healing would probably save him, but it wouldn't help Storm if their suits tear. And
Doesn't stop him though.
Wolverine's like, I don't care if my lungs get shriveled up or, melt or whatever. And he pops his claws, and not like 5 minutes later, he's on the ground being like, what did I mean? What was that about needing these lungs? So it becomes kind of I don't know, kind of like a 90s Tom Clancy-esque like thriller for a bit where like the American military are trying to figure out how to stop the missiles because they're too far off to get there in time.
Yeah, there's a lot of like suspense and like waiting, and then someone will do one thing and then there'll be a pause.
Rogue and Beast are in the Blackbird blasting the missiles, and they can do that because they haven't been launched. But once Omega Red realizes what's happened, he sets the missiles so that they are hot already. So if they get shot down, they'll explode as nuclear missiles.
Yeah.
And so that's all happening. And then the American Air Force shows up in time. Rogue dives underwater and just beats up the boat.
Yeah, I love when she comes back up because she goes down and Beast's like, no, you can't possibly, but she does. And then she comes back up and he's like, what did you do? And she said, I bent his boat.
Yep, she did. It's just so funny because they're just blasting away the missiles. And then when he's about to shoot more missiles, she's like, I'm done with this. And she just jumps out and takes care of herself.
Yeah, I love that.
She's Rogue.
She's Rogue. What are you going to do?
Storm is using her powers as best she can to hold Omega Red back. Because Wolverine is no good because the radiation is beating him up.
Yes, he's made himself a burden.
Storm has to carry him to the mini sub.
Mm-hmm.
And then they fly away, and Omega Red tries to start the sub, but he ends up just going down that cliff and sinking into the ocean.
Yep, because she bent his boat.
Yep. I felt bad for a bit with Omega Red. I mean, I know he was going to kill millions of people, but I would hate if I was stuck at the very bottom of the ocean gulch.
I think many people would.
But then we find out he's fine. He's just hanging out at the bottom of the nuclear sub.
Yeah, I guess he's just gonna live in the sub and then plot until next time.
Yeah.
Does he not eat? What's his deal?
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't think he comes back in this show. So that might just be his fate now.
Maybe he'll love it. Maybe it'll become like his bachelor pad.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe he'll work through all of his issues because he can't do anything about it. And then eventually he'll just be like, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to make the best of the time I have.
Yep. Through time and meditation, I realized that the problem was me.
But in a Russian accent.
Yeah. I was the living weapon, but the only person I hurt was myself.
Yes. And then the music plays.
Yeah. This episode, Hilary.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. How do you feel about this episode? I feel like I have a little notes about it.
Yeah, I feel a little more about this one like I did about previous kind of filler episodes.
Yeah.
It just sort of happened and it's fine. I don't think it was bad. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's just sort of okay, sure, that happened. Well, I guess I do like that it's different. I like that it has kind of a, it's not a specific character doing something. It's not I don't know, it's a different kind of mission, I guess, because they're working with the military and stuff, and that's kind of interesting, I guess.
Yeah. I think some of the issues, Omega Red, visually and conceptually, he always seems cooler than he is in practice. And I think that's just because there's only so much to his character, especially around the time they're writing him now in the show.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think also, I was thinking about it while watching this, is that the show went from, the first season was serialized, and then
everything
else has been episodic. And I think what happens is episodic becomes a lot more plot heavy episodes.
Yeah.
Whereas serialized, like, they couldn't change too much, but like Wolverine would have a 3-episode character arc. Or, it felt like you were seeing things progress from one episode to the other, and you can't do that episodically.
Because it's all got to be self-contained.
So that whole, like, issue, like Wolverine dealing with his anger here of Omega Red, like, it's just gonna happen here.
And it just, like, it feels kind of rushed and forced.
Right. And I think that means that, like, the character stuff has to be stronger at its base, because you can only do so much with it in the 22 minutes, which means that because this is Omega Red and not somebody like Sabretooth or like the Juggernaut Professor X relationship, it is just plot heavy and actiony, and it just kind of leaves you being like, well, yep, that happened.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think that's what I remember watching this the first time as a kid being like, that was cool, but like future rewatches, I'm like, oh, that was just kind of there.
Yeah.
So I wish I liked it more. I wish I liked any of the Omega Red stuff more than I do.
Yeah, Omega Red just doesn't do anything for me, I guess.
Yeah. Again, I like his design. I think the voice actor's good. I think this episode is probably the best use they could come up with at that time for Omega Red. So,
and they wanted to, I guess, for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was, super popular for a while. He came out all mysterious with a connection to Wolverine, and he looked cool with Jim Lee drawing him. So there's always, even in the comics, there's always this element like, all right, let's finally crack Omega Red. And it's like, well,
maybe this time.
Yeah. I feel like with both these episodes, neither one of them is like not good. They're just, we're in full episodic mode now.
Yeah, this is just straight up episodic. Let's see what happens if we throw this character in.
Season 1 was pure serialized. Season 2 felt like it was more episodic, but it felt still a little bit serialized because it had that Professor X thing. And the goals seemed to kind of be like very character specific. And then season 3 was the Phoenix stuff. So that was all connected. But I think we're just, you're seeing what happens when it becomes like that. So I mean, they do a couple 2-parters coming up, and then like the whole Battle of Good and Evil or whatever is a 4-parter. So I think they're just like, fine, we won't do serialized, but we're going to do a bunch of multi-parters.
Yeah, that's a good way around it.
Yeah. Seemed like by the nature of the show was created to be serialized. So I think it's just written in its DNA that like it's best when it is that way.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely is. Oh man, remember season 1? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
Okay, well, next time we talk about the animated series, it's going to be with Sanctuary Parts 1 and 2.
That was the episode we saw at the end of Omega Red.
Okay, is that what that was?
Yeah.
Why was that there?
Because this episode aired a year after it was supposed to. So it just had that attached.
So it just had a weird little tag at the end of it?
Well, because the later episodes do start showing those tags from older episodes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that'll be a fun little 2-parter to deal with.
2-part Magneto. Yep.
Yay. We haven't seen him in a little bit.
Not all last season. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that goes next time.
Yeah.
Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. Previously on X-Men is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 90s Music Got Me Like, This Endorian Life, and 9021 Here We Go. Follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, or share this show wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.